In this video, I'm going to try to build an entire city starting from a tiny island in SimCity 3000. Survival Island is a challenge that has always invited a sense of adventure with a slow, measurable ticking of progress. Day by day, the island grows, all against the blank canvas of a vast and endless sea in all directions. Perfectly trapped. Like growing a tree from seed, branching out to reach new and exciting proportions. I could have picked SimCity 2000 or SimCity 4, but today I decided to revisit the awkward middle child of Will Wright's brilliant game design. So I embarked with my attempt at the first city in the year 2000. It all began on January 1st, 10,000 simoleons in the bank, and 9 grass cubes available for building space. If we were going to build a city, we'd need to power it somehow. And since the coal, oil, and natural gas power plants seemed too large and awkward to fit on the landmass, I commenced by building a single wind turbine. Clean, fresh, green technology. With power secured, then we started to fill the ocean with dirt so that we could build industries and housing around it, all connected by just a few small roads. Unfortunately, the wind turbine wasn't very good, and we almost immediately ran out of power. Since the wind power wouldn't be enough, we soon found ourselves building a coal power plant with all the new room and the last remaining money. And although it polluted the ocean with poop stain, it was more than enough to power our burgeoning metropolis. So in the years 2001 and 2002, the town expanded. We filled more of the ocean with more dirt and built more residential developments on top. Everything seemed hunky-dory, but unfortunately what set out with good intentions quickly turned south. Since the coal power plant was so dirty, the homes around it turned into slums due to the high pollution. Then at the start of 2003, just out of nowhere, a whirlpool opened up in the ocean. Just as quickly as it appeared, the whirlpool disappeared harmlessly. From 2004 to 2005, the town's footprint grew, inching forth in all directions and expanding. Our industries and housing projects increased. But then in 2006, an unexpected brown cloud of toxic pollution descended in our midst and destroyed the homes of everyone living next to the coal power plant. A tragedy. A shame. But we'd recover, though. It had destroyed only a few people's houses. But we actually didn't recover, since the giant toxic cloud of 2011 was what really did us in. It rained poop directly down on the coal power plant, reducing it to rubble, shoring up our bank accounts and eliminating all hope of ever coming back from the huge financial setback. And so the whole city descended into blackouts and ruin. Everyone died. The end. Okay, so back to the drawing board. The first city didn't work out, but we learned our lesson, right? So what about the second island city? So we embarked with the same challenge on attempt number 2, keeping in mind all the lessons we'd learned from part 1. The second city. The second city, much like the first, commenced construction on January 1st, 2000. To avoid future death from toxic poop clouds, we instead invested our starting capital in the much cleaner, yet still reliable, natural gas power plant. But we kept the thing far away from us at arm's length, separating the town itself from the power plant via the way of a long, straight land bridge to keep the people safe from any potential poop interference. You know the drill. Residential, commercial, and industrial zones. The town grew again. From 2000 to 2001, we collected 98 simoleons in tax from our residents. We reinvested those tax funds into filling the ocean with more dirt and paving way for new residential zones to make way for yet more taxpayers. Year by year, we collected more and more money and expanded our island's footprint. So from 2002 to 2010, that was our grind set. Collect the taxes, fill the ocean with dirt, and zone land for new housing. Thus we rose on an upward trend. This all despite the unnerving miss from the bizarre water tornado of 2011, which just remained off the coast innocuously. It seemed we had circumvented the disasters that had destroyed the first city. But eventually, however, a new disaster struck. It was the Great Fire of 2013. We didn't have a fire department. We couldn't afford a fire department. Unfortunately, fire is hot. Everyone died again. Now we had no money left, not even enough to demolish buildings in the fire's path before it spread, so everyone burned. But we recovered. Thanks to the brilliant strategy of keeping the power plant separate from the town, it took only a few years to clear all the debris back out, and by 2015, we were back on our feet. But still, we would need more money if we were going to grow the city. So in 2016, a toxic waste disposal plant offered us 400 simoleons a month to build their site in our city. And despite our previous bad experiences with toxic waste destroying the power plant in the town, this seemed like a pretty good offer. And so I agreed to build the site, but only far off away to the other side of the power plant this time, separate from the town. And after a little preparation, in 2021, at last we opened the doors to the toxic waste plant. Finally, a steady source of income. But it actually wasn't a steady source of income since they decided to just not pay us. They had lied. Then there was an earthquake, and then there was another toxic cloud over the town. No matter, it didn't destroy our power plant. Well, that is, it didn't destroy our power plant until the UFO alien invasion of 2026. The whole town was powerless. Maybe we could survive fires, earthquakes, pollution clouds, and even scammy toxic waste companies, but alien invasions were something for which we simply hadn't prepared. Everyone was abducted. And so, with a heavy heart, I decided to scrap the second city, blacked out and literally powerless. But at the same time, optimistic and much wizened for my third attempt at the third city. They say the third time's the charm. This time, I'd make a city that could survive fires, earthquakes, tornadoes, toxic poop clouds, scams, and UFO invasions. But how? So, after a little critical thinking, I decided that a decentralized power system would be the best aid in helping us dodge any potential disasters. And so I embarked once again on January 1st, but this time using the starting capital to construct a grid of wind turbines. Maybe the aliens could abduct one or two of them, but they certainly couldn't take them all with this more robust formation. And it was all connected by an array of cheap and inexpensive power lines that would all be easy to replace. And to prevent the spread of fires throughout the city, I stopped clumping together all the buildings, but instead decided to separate out each zone in checkerboard-like fashion, making it cheap and easy to prevent the spread of fires by just demolishing a few buildings, especially considering the complete absence of any fire department whatsoever. And so with foundations laying out, by the middle of 2003 we had sprouted the seed of what was someday destined to become a bustling metropolis. Year by year, we expanded out our infrastructure of each island to reach new checkerboard squares, open to growth, yet safe from potential disaster. And even though the wind turbines weren't yet strong enough, we kept stringing them along to build more of them as we filled yet more of the ocean beneath with dirt. All this as the population rose, cresting 2,000 people in the year 2006. And so at last, in the year 2010, the first fire broke out and tested our infrastructure. But sure enough, with the timely demolition of every building in a 4-tile radius, we prevented the spread of the flames to the rest of the city. You might be asking yourself, is this a moral infringement of individual rights? Maybe. But we did it for the greater good, and that's that. And so, with a rush of confidence in our robust new civil engineering protocols, we continued to expand the town, evading the pitfalls from even new and completely unexpected disasters, like the meteor shower of 2012, which passed us by innocuously. The city enlarged, and disasters were unable to spread beyond 1 square block of development, helping us to avoid what would have otherwise been certain doom. And sure enough, we even made it through the second flying saucer invasion of 2028, when the aliens abducted only 2 of our wind turbines, leaving the rest of the town largely unscathed. And so the city grew, square by square, with residential, commercial, and industrial islands as the power grid expanded to accommodate the new development. All up until eventually, in the year 2040, we'd at last raised enough taxpayer money to undertake the construction of a long, narrow land bridge from the center of the town to the upper edge of the map. This would grant us our first major opportunity at industrial expansion. The edge of the map is key here, since it's the best place to build your dirty factories in SimCity. Utilizing this method, half your pollution just disappears off the map edge for, someone else to deal with. Now the town could grow, at long last anchored in its infrastructure to something solid. And nothing could shake us, not even the meteor shower of 2048, nor the sea tornado of 2051. And as we continued to survive and thrive, we stretched out more of our factories along the map edge to create more jobs, but also keep pollution out of our homes. As the century marched on, we continued developing the town, establishing civic services to attract people in, and then getting rid of them when we realized they were too expensive to maintain. So the city grew to massive new proportions, and whatever it took to grow. Whenever there was a fire, we kept just destroying all the buildings around it. A fire department, after all, would be too expensive. After a while, though, it became apparent that no one wanted to move into our town anymore. So be it. We would just take their money. So then I spent the years from 2100 to 2172 ignoring everything and doing nothing. We ignored the meteor shower of 2137, and we ignored the Great Fire of 2146. But at the end of it all, we had collected over 800,000 simoleons in taxpayer revenue from over a century of doing nothing. So at last, in the year 2173, we decided to use the last 100-some-odd years of taxpayer revenue to fill in the rest of the ocean with dirt. Finally, we had overcome our plight of being trapped on a desert island, subjected to the fickle whims of Mother Nature. Now there was plenty. Now there was land for development. Now there was time. The population, after all, had been hanging around 85,000 Sims for the whole last century. How do we get those last 15,000 Sims to migrate to our city and call this metropolis their home? So with 60,000 simoleons to spare, I lowered taxes dramatically to attract people in to 3, 2, 1, and then 0% tax. At last, in the year 2189, our population crested 100K, achieving our rightful place as metropolis. Unfortunately, as a result of these actions, the town went horribly bankrupt and everyone died. In the end, and that, my friends, is the story of the island city. Because everyone knows that if I continue with the city, it'll just turn into Magna Santi. If you want to see that, there's this video up in the upper right corner. I do hope you enjoyed. As always, I'm Ambiguous Amphibian. A big thanks to my patrons who intelligently rely on wind power to thwart the aliens trying to abduct them. Until next time.